The Lisbon earthquake occurred on November 1st, 1755, devastating the Portuguese capital with a powerful shock, estimated between 7.7 and 9.0 magnitude. Striking on All Saints' Day, the earthquake caught many in churches across Lisbon, where hundreds of buildings began to collapse, trapping thousands inside. The initial tremor was soon followed by an even deadlier threat, a massive tsunami that surged up the Tagus River, sweeping away entire neighborhoods and those who had gathered at the waterfront to seek safety. Fires erupted throughout the city, ignited by fallen lamps and scattered debris, and burned uncontrollably for days, reducing Lisbon to ruins. The impact was catastrophic, with an estimated 30,000 to 70,000 people losing their lives. Nearly 85% of the city's buildings were destroyed, including churches, royal palaces, and Lisbon's treasured library, which contained countless manuscripts and records. This event profoundly shocked Europe, fueling philosophical debates on divine justice and the nature of suffering during the Enlightenment. The 1755 Lisbon earthquake remains one of history's most significant natural disasters, reshaping Lisbon's landscape, prompting advancements in building safety, and leaving a lasting impact on philosophical thought across Europe. The new Madrid earthquakes of 1811 to 1812 were a remarkable series of tremors that rocked the central United States along the Mississippi River, with magnitudes reaching up to 8.8. Beginning on December 16, 1811, a powerful initial quake hit, followed by hundreds of aftershocks over several months and culminating in another major shock on February 7, 1812. Centered near New Madrid, Missouri, this seismic activity was surprising due to the area's location far from any major tectonic plate boundaries, making it a unique intraplate earthquake event. The earthquakes drastically transformed the landscape. Sections of the Mississippi River reversed course, entire forests were uprooted, and landslides reshaped large areas. Reelfoot Lake in Tennessee was created as land subsided and filled with water, leaving a lasting geographical impact. Shaking was felt across 1 million square miles, reaching distant cities like Washington, D.C. and Charleston, South Carolina. Panic spread among settlers and Native American communities, who endured months of rumbling and intense tremors. Although the low population density kept fatalities relatively low, widespread structural damage occurred, with log cabins, chimneys, and roads destroyed. The lack of modern building techniques in the frontier region made structures especially vulnerable. In the wake of these earthquakes, the new Madrid seismic zone became a focus of scientific study, greatly contributing to the understanding of intraplate seismic activity, earthquakes that occur away from plate boundaries. This event also sparked discussions about earthquake preparedness in unlikely regions, emphasizing the importance of resilience in areas previously considered stable. Today, the new Madrid earthquakes are recognized as one of the most significant natural events in U.S. history, providing a reminder of the unpredictable power of seismic forces that can affect even the most stable-seeming landscapes. The event's legacy lives on in continued seismic monitoring and preparedness efforts in the central U.S., ensuring more awareness of the region's potential for seismic events. The San Francisco earthquake struck on April 18, 1906 at 5:12 a.m., unleashing a 7.9 magnitude tremor that shook the city awake. Though lasting less than a minute, the earthquake caused widespread destruction as buildings, homes, and infrastructure crumbled, and streets split open. Broken water lines cut off essential resources just as the crisis unfolded. The earthquake, however, was only the beginning of the disaster. Ruptured gas lines ignited fires that burned uncontrollably for 3 days. With water mains destroyed, firefighters were largely powerless against the flames, which ultimately consumed 500 city blocks and destroyed 28,000 buildings. Entire neighborhoods, iconic structures, and cultural hubs vanished, displacing over 200,000 residents, almost half of San Francisco's population at the time. The human toll was devastating, with over 3,000 lives lost, many trapped under collapsed buildings or overtaken by flames. In some areas, makeshift shelters and relief stations were quickly set up to assist survivors left without homes, food, or basic supplies. As many buildings lacked structural resilience, the earthquake underscored weaknesses in the city's infrastructure. Economically, The city suffered enormous losses, with $400 million in damages, which is around $11 billion today, leaving San Francisco in financial turmoil. The catastrophe exposed vulnerabilities in construction practices and fire safety protocols, leading to significant advancements in building codes, seismic safety, and disaster preparedness. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake remains a defining chapter in U.S. history, reshaping the city's landscape and serving as a powerful lesson in urban resilience. It paved the way for better understanding of earthquake impacts and highlighted the necessity of proactive planning and rigorous safety standards. The Great Kantō Earthquake struck Japan on September 1, 1923, at 11:58 a.m., delivering a 7.9 magnitude shock that devastated Tokyo, Yokohama, and the entire Kantō region. The earthquake's force collapsed buildings, buckled roads, and sent densely populated urban areas into disarray. But as catastrophic as the quake was, the worst was yet to come. As buildings fell, fires ignited across Tokyo and Yokohama, fueled by overturned stoves and oil lamps. Strong winds quickly fanned the flames, which spread uncontrollably for nearly 2 days, engulfing entire neighborhoods. One of the most tragic incidents occurred at Rikugun Honjo Hifukusho, an army clothing depot where nearly 40,000 people seeking refuge were trapped and perished. By the time the fires subsided, around 570,000 homes were destroyed, leaving 1.9 million people homeless. The human toll was staggering, with over 140,000 lives lost, mostly due to fire and falling debris. Essential infrastructure, including water lines, roads, and telecommunications, was destroyed, cutting off communities and delaying emergency response efforts. Thousands were left injured or missing, with many in dire need of medical help, food, and shelter. The earthquake also exacerbated social tensions. Fueled by rumors of arson and looting, anti-Korean sentiment surged, resulting in violent attacks on the Korean community. This period marked a dark chapter in the social aftermath, underscoring the need for social unity during crises. Economically, the earthquake drained Japan's resources, impacting its recovery following World War I and forcing a re-evaluation of its urban planning and disaster response strategies. In the disaster's aftermath, Japan implemented seismic building codes and designated September 1st as Disaster Prevention Day to promote preparedness, public awareness, and community resilience. The Great Kantō Earthquake remains one of Japan's defining historical moments, reshaping its approach to disaster management, seismic safety, and urban resilience. Its legacy endures as a reminder of the need for preparedness and the importance of social unity in the face of natural disasters. The Chillán Earthquake struck south-central Chile on January 24, 1939. With a magnitude of 8.3, marking one of the deadliest natural disasters in the nation's history. Centered near Chillán, a densely populated area, the quake's violent tremors caused widespread destruction as buildings and homes collapsed instantly, burying many residents under rubble. Within minutes, tens of thousands of structures were reduced to ruins, with entire neighborhoods leveled. The human toll was immense, with an estimated 28,000 lives lost and countless others injured. Roads, bridges, and communication lines were obliterated, isolating communities and complicating rescue efforts. Many survivors went days without aid, as limited resources and damaged infrastructure severely delayed relief efforts. The aftermath brought a massive humanitarian crisis, leaving thousands homeless and in desperate need of shelter, food, and medical assistance. As families endured hardship, the government recognized the need for organized disaster response, leading to the establishment of Chile's National Emergency Office to oversee preparedness and manage relief efforts. This disaster also catalyzed stricter seismic building regulations, emphasizing earthquake-resistant designs to protect lives. The earthquake also underscored the region's vulnerability, prompting the government to prioritize infrastructure resilience, public safety education, and emergency preparedness. Local communities began receiving training on earthquake drills and emergency protocols to reduce casualties in future events. The 1939 Chillán Earthquake remains a somber chapter in Chile's history, deeply influencing national construction standards and inspiring long-term commitments to disaster resilience and seismic safety. The lessons from this tragedy continue to guide Chile's approach to safeguarding lives and strengthening infrastructure in a seismically active region. The Ashgabat Earthquake struck in Turkmenistan near Ashgabat, then part of the Soviet Union, on October 6, 1948, with a magnitude of 7.3, devastating Ashgabat, the capital, and surrounding areas. Hitting in the early hours, the quake caught residents off guard, and within moments, nearly the entire city lay in ruins. Poorly constructed buildings crumbled, trapping a significant part of the population under debris. In the main shock and aftershock, almost all brick buildings collapsed. Concrete structures were heavily damaged, and freight trains were derailed. Reports on the death toll from the earthquake range widely, with estimates between 10,000 and 110,000, which accounted for nearly 10% of the Turkmen SSR's population at that time. The earthquake caused extreme damage in Ashgabat and nearby villages. Surviving hospitals and rescue facilities were quickly overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the disaster. Basic infrastructure, water, electricity, and roads, was completely destroyed, leaving survivors without essential resources or immediate aid. Given the region's geographic isolation, immediate assistance was scarce, forcing survivors to rely on each other for rescue and recovery. Soviet authorities imposed strict censorship, limiting the international community's awareness of the disaster's true scale and delaying widespread support. The earthquake left lasting impacts on the region. In its aftermath, Soviet authorities reassessed building standards for seismic resilience as the tragedy exposed critical weaknesses in construction practices. Today, the 1948 Ashgabat earthquake is remembered as one of the deadliest on record. It remains a stark reminder of the crucial need for earthquake-resistant infrastructure and effective emergency preparedness in vulnerable areas. This event profoundly shaped Turkmenistan's approach to urban planning, disaster response, and community resilience. The Severo-Kurilsk Earthquake struck off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula in the Russian Far East on November 4, 1952, with a massive magnitude of 9.0, making it one of the most powerful earthquakes of the 20th century. Centered off the eastern coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula, the quake unleashed immense energy, triggering a series of powerful tsunamis that swept across the Pacific Ocean. The sparsely populated Kamchatka region, known for its volcanic terrain, experienced severe shaking, but it was the tsunami that caused the most widespread impact. Waves crashed into Kamchatka's coastlines, devastating fishing villages and coastal communities. Buildings, boats, and infrastructure were swept away, and large areas along the shore were left in ruins. The tsunami's force continued across the Pacific, reaching Hawaii, New Zealand, and even the western coast of the United States. The local tsunami, unleashing waves that soared up to 50 feet, wreaked havoc across the Kamchatka Peninsula and the Kuril Islands, resulting in widespread devastation and an estimated 10,000 to 15,000 people dead. This also caused significant property damage, flooding homes and wrecking boats along the shore. The tsunamis inflicted substantial destruction on far-off coastlines, highlighting the vast reach of undersea seismic events. The 1952 Severo-Kurilsk Earthquake underscored the need for a global tsunami warning system, leading to advancements in tracking and alert mechanisms in the Pacific region. Today, it is remembered for demonstrating how seismic activity in one part of the world can have far-reaching effects, emphasizing the importance of international tsunami awareness and preparedness. The Great Chilean Earthquake, also known as the Valdivia Earthquake, stands as the most powerful earthquake ever recorded. Occurring on May 22, 1960, at 3:11 p.m. local time, this seismic event reached an unprecedented magnitude, which most studies have placed it at 9.4 to 9.6 on the moment magnitude scale. The epicenter was located near the city of Valdivia, approximately 570 kilometers south of Santiago, Chile. The earthquake's duration was exceptionally long, lasting about 10 minutes. The intense shaking caused widespread destruction across southern Chile, leading to the collapse of buildings and severe infrastructure damage. An estimated 1,000 to 6,000 lives were lost due to the main quake and the subsequent series of destructive tsunamis. These tsunamis not only devastated the Chilean coastline, but also traveled across the Pacific Ocean, affecting Hawaii, Japan, and the Philippines with significant casualties and widespread destruction. The tsunamis generated by the earthquake reached heights of up to 25 meters, 82 feet, in some coastal areas of Chile. This immense wave height inflicted severe damage on ports, fishing villages, and urban centers, complicating rescue and relief efforts. In Hilo, Hawaii, the waves resulted in the deaths of 61 people and caused extensive destruction, illustrating the far-reaching impact of the event. The combined effects of the disaster left 2 million people homeless, a number that highlights the catastrophic scale of the disaster. The economic losses were staggering, estimated between $400 million to $800 million, equivalent to billions today when adjusted for inflation. The disaster reshaped entire communities and created a humanitarian crisis that required substantial relief efforts. Essential services, such as water and electricity, were disrupted for weeks, adding to the challenges faced by survivors and emergency responders. The subduction of the Nazca Plate beneath the South American Plate along the Peru-Chile Trench was the primary cause of this earthquake. The stress that had built up over centuries was released in an instant, leading to massive energy displacement. This tectonic movement caused parts of the land to sink by up to 2 meters, 6.5 feet, permanently altering the landscape. Ground fractures and landslides blocked roads and isolated communities, complicating aid delivery efforts. A notable consequence of the seismic activity was the eruption of the Cordon Col volcano, which began approximately 38 hours after the earthquake and continued for several weeks. This eruption added further complexity to the recovery process and underscored the interconnected nature of seismic and volcanic activity in the region. The Great Chilean Earthquake of 1960 continues to be a pivotal event in the field of earthquake studies, influencing research, building practices, and disaster preparedness strategies. Its impact has driven advancements in seismic monitoring and early warning systems, helping mitigate risks in similarly active regions. The lessons from the 1960 Valdivia earthquake and tsunami are vital for urban planning and resilience measures aimed at protecting communities from future seismic threats. Additionally, this earthquake promoted international collaboration, highlighting the importance of global data sharing and cooperative emergency response planning to enhance readiness for potential future megaquakes. The Alaska Earthquake, also known as the Great Alaskan Earthquake and Good Friday Earthquake, occurred on March 27, 1964, with a magnitude of 9.2, making it one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded. The epicenter was located in Prince William Sound, Alaska, and the quake violently shook southern Alaska for approximately 4.5 minutes. It caused widespread destruction, including severe ground fissures and extensive landslides, with some areas of the land sinking up to 8 feet and coastal zones rising by as much as 30 feet. The earthquake triggered massive tsunamis that devastated coastal communities in Alaska and sent destructive waves to British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and California. Tsunamis also caused damage in Hawaii and Japan. In some locations, such as Valdez Inlet, tsunami waves, exacerbated by landslides, reached heights of up to 220 feet, causing catastrophic damage along the coastline. Coastal towns like Seward, Kodiak, and Valdez suffered significantly, with extensive destruction to homes, boats, and critical infrastructure. Despite the extensive damage, the death toll was relatively modest at 131 lives lost, partly due to Alaska's sparse population and the timing of the quake, which reduced exposure in vulnerable areas. In terms of economic impact, the earthquake caused an estimated $311 million in damage, which is equivalent to billions in today's dollars, leading to significant economic challenges during the reconstruction period. The rebuilding efforts not only focused on restoring what was lost, but also aimed at improving the resilience of buildings and infrastructure to withstand future quakes. This catastrophic event underscored the seismic risks associated with the Pacific Northwest and prompted the adoption of stricter building codes in Alaska, aimed at enhancing earthquake resilience. It also spurred a wealth of research into subduction zones, significantly advancing scientific understanding of these earthquake-prone regions. Following the disaster, the establishment of the West Coast and Alaska Tsunami Warning Center marked a significant advancement in tsunami preparedness, focusing on rapid alert systems to mitigate future losses. The lessons learned from the 1964 Alaska earthquake have had lasting impacts on earthquake science and engineering. The event led to improvements in earthquake-resistant construction practices not only in Alaska, but also in other seismically active areas of the United States. These efforts underscored the importance of designing infrastructure that can withstand high-magnitude earthquakes. Today, the earthquake is remembered not only for its destructive power, but also for its significant contributions to the fields of seismology, tsunami preparedness, and disaster-resilient infrastructure. Its legacy continues to influence seismic safety policies and emergency response planning around the world. The Tangshan Earthquake. Struck on July 28, 1976, at 3:42 a.m., with a devastating magnitude of 7.6 on the moment magnitude scale. Centered near Tangshan, a heavily industrialized city in China with a population density crossing 1 million, the earthquake resulted in almost instantaneous widespread destruction. Buildings, roads, railways, and critical infrastructure were demolished within moments, significantly impeding rescue efforts and isolating the city from outside help. The official death toll for the 1976 Tangshan earthquake in China was reported 242,769, but some estimates suggest it could have been as high as 655,000 due to underreporting and the overwhelming scale of the disaster, making it one of the deadliest natural disasters of the 20th century. In addition, 164,851 serious injuries were also reported. The extensive damage led to urgent needs for medical care, food, and shelter among the survivors. But the obliteration of communication lines and main transport routes delayed the arrival of essential aid. Emergency services, lacking functional facilities, were compelled to set up makeshift care centers outdoors. The Tangshan earthquake exposed significant vulnerabilities in China's disaster preparedness and response mechanisms. In response, the Chinese government launched one of its most extensive relief operations, deploying a vast array of military and civilian resources to assist in the recovery and reconstruction of Tangshan. This disaster also catalyzed advancements in seismic research, leading to significant enhancements in building codes and disaster management strategies throughout China. Today, the Tangshan earthquake is not only remembered for its massive devastation and the profound loss of life, but also as a pivotal moment that reshaped China's approach to urban planning and emergency management. The legacy of Tangshan continues to influence disaster risk management and urban planning strategies worldwide, emphasizing the necessity of ongoing improvements in earthquake preparedness. The Armenian earthquake, also known as the Spitak earthquake, occurred on December 7, 1988, at 11:41 a.m. local time, with a magnitude of 6.8. The earthquake lasted less than 20 seconds. This devastating event caused extreme ground shaking and was particularly destructive due to its shallow depth, leading to massive damage in the towns of Spitak, Leninakan, now Gyumri, and Kirovakan, now Vanadzor. The earthquake resulted in the near-total destruction of Spitak and significant damage in surrounding areas, revealing a critical need for stronger building codes. The earthquake's impact was compounded by a series of aftershocks, with a significant 5.8 magnitude aftershock occurring just 4 minutes after the main shock. These aftershocks contributed to further casualties and damage over a 400 square kilometer area. The seismic event displayed a complex rupture process involving multiple fault planes, which added to the difficulty of rescue and recovery operations. The disaster resulted in approximately 25,000 to 50,000 deaths, with over 31,000 to 130,000 injured, underscoring the severity of the impact on Armenia's population. The aftermath exposed the inadequacy of local building structures, many of which were not designed to withstand such seismic activity. This led to widespread collapses, particularly of poorly constructed buildings with heavy roofs. In response to the quake, there was a significant international effort, with many countries providing aid. This global response was crucial, not only for immediate rescue efforts but also for long-term recovery and rebuilding. The earthquake led to major changes in local and regional disaster preparedness and building practices, emphasizing the importance of earthquake-resistant construction and improved emergency response strategies. The Loma Prieta earthquake occurred at the central coast of California on October 17, 1989, at 5:04 p.m. local time with a magnitude of 6.9. The epicenter was located in the forest of Nisene Marks State Park in Santa Cruz County, about 10 miles northeast of Santa Cruz along a section of the San Andreas Fault System. The earthquake was named after the nearby Loma Prieta peak in the Santa Cruz Mountains and occurred just as the third game of the 1989 World Series Baseball Championship was about to begin, drawing national attention. The quake's impact was immediate and devastating. Buildings and infrastructure were severely damaged, particularly in the San Francisco Bay Area. The San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge saw a section of its upper deck collapse, resulting in one fatality, while the collapse of the Cypress Street Viaduct on Interstate 880 in Oakland caused 42 of the total 63 deaths. The Marina District in San Francisco suffered extensive damage from fires ignited by ruptured gas lines, leading to significant destruction of property. Overall, the earthquake caused around $5.6 to $6 billion in damages, equivalent to $13.8 to $14.7 billion today, and injured over 3,757 people. The devastation underscored the urgent need for earthquake-resistant infrastructure, prompting enhanced seismic building codes and extensive retrofitting across the Bay Area. It also led to accelerated disaster preparedness efforts by the California Seismic Safety Commission, ensuring higher safety standards in both public and private buildings. The event significantly advanced seismic research, particularly concerning soil amplification and its effects on structures. It also inspired new earthquake-resistant designs for transportation infrastructure, shaping ongoing policies on urban planning, emergency response, and earthquake preparedness throughout California. The Kobe Earthquake, or Great Hanshin Earthquake, struck Kobe, Japan, on January 17, 1995, at 5:46 a.m. with a magnitude of 6.9 on the moment magnitude scale. The intense shaking lasted about 20 seconds and caused widespread devastation in Kobe, a major industrial and port city, damaging buildings, highways, and rail lines. The earthquake resulted in a death toll estimated at 5,502 to 6,434, marking it as one of the deadliest earthquakes in Japan's modern history. Additionally, an estimated 36,896 to 43,792 were injured, and 251,301 to 310,000 people were displaced. Rescue efforts were severely hindered by widespread fires ignited by ruptured gas lines in densely populated neighborhoods, devastating entire blocks and exacerbating the survivors' struggle against shortages of water, food, and electricity amid freezing temperatures. The disaster exposed significant vulnerabilities in Japan's infrastructure. The dramatic collapse of elevated highways, including the Hanshin Expressway, and the destruction of rail lines and bridges disrupted transport and isolated communities, leading to estimated economic losses of around $200 billion. In response, the Kobe earthquake catalyzed major reforms in Japan's disaster preparedness and building regulations. It led to enhanced seismic building codes requiring reinforced construction and retrofitting of older buildings. The disaster also overhauled Japan's emergency response strategies, establishing better protocols, specialized search and rescue teams, and comprehensive training for first responders. Additionally, it spurred investments in new disaster prevention technologies, including early warning systems and public evacuation plans. The Sichuan Earthquake, one of the deadliest in recent history, struck China's Sichuan province on May 12, 2008, with a magnitude ranging between 7.9 to 8.3. The quake hit at 2:28 p.m. local time, catching people in schools, offices, and homes by surprise. Buildings collapsed within seconds, and entire towns were leveled across the mountainous region. The destruction was immense, with over 87,587 lives lost, 374,643 injured, and 18,392 missing. Thousands of children were trapped in school buildings that crumbled under the force of the quake. The earthquake's impact extended across Sichuan and beyond, reaching as far as Beijing and Shanghai. Roads and bridges were destroyed, isolating communities and complicating rescue efforts. Landslides blocked critical routes and buried villages, making it difficult for rescuers to reach those trapped in remote areas. Hospitals, schools, and residential buildings, many not built to withstand such intense seismic activity, were reduced to rubble, leaving millions homeless. The earthquake struck a particular nerve in China due to the high number of children who died in collapsed school buildings. Questions arose about the quality of construction, as many schools referred to as tofu dregs, buildings due to their fragile structure, did not meet safety standards. Public outcry over these preventable tragedies led to national debates and demands for stronger building regulations. In total, the disaster caused economic losses of nearly $150 billion. The Sichuan earthquake prompted a massive humanitarian response, both within China and internationally. Today, the tragedy stands as a reminder of the need for resilience in earthquake-prone regions and the importance of safe construction standards to protect lives. The Haiti Earthquake struck on January 12, 2010 at 4:53 p.m., unleashing a catastrophic magnitude of 7.0 on the moment magnitude scale, near Port-au-Prince, Haiti's capital. With an epicenter only about 16 miles west of the city, the shallow quake devastated the densely populated area within seconds, leading to immense destruction. According to official estimates, 222,570 people lost their lives and 300,000 injured. An estimated 97,294 houses were destroyed, and another 188,383 damaged across Port-au-Prince in southern Haiti. The devastation was exacerbated by the collapse of poorly constructed buildings, including homes, schools, and key government structures such as the Presidential Palace, the Parliament Building, and UN headquarters. This widespread destruction not only increased the death toll, but also severely hindered subsequent relief efforts. In the immediate aftermath, over 1.3 million people were displaced, creating a severe humanitarian crisis. Rescue and aid efforts faced significant challenges due to blocked roads, damaged infrastructure, and disease outbreaks, notably cholera, which threatened the health of survivors. Despite substantial international aid, the response was impeded by logistical issues, delaying crucial supplies and medical assistance. The 2010 Haiti earthquake highlighted the critical need for resilient infrastructure and effective disaster response, especially in regions vulnerable to natural disasters. It remains a stark reminder of the importance of earthquake preparedness and has shaped global discussions on improving safety standards and emergency procedures in impoverished areas. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like if you learned something. If you have any opinion on this video, do leave a comment below. Subscribe if you would like to see more like this one.